done or will be done. Can the Minister inform the House whether he has effected in the recent past visit following complaints received?
I have been visiting regularly the garden in the context of the Samadhi. And also I have been receiving proposals, and we are working to making things look better. There is room for improvement, I agree, but it is collectively that we will achieve a better, look and aspect of the garden.
Now, I'm giving you the floor.
L'honorable ministre, n'est-il pas d'accord que toute la structure et le business model même du jardin doivent être revus, quitte à retenir les services de consultants spécialisés dans le domaine s'il le faut, et qu'il est temps également de revoir la loi cadre concernée elle-même?
I don't think it's a question of reviewing the law. It is a question of retaining services as suggested by the honourable member, and this is exactly what is being done. We have the capacity in other services within Mauritius, not necessarily from outside. For example, we have very qualified people in the National Parks and Conservation Service that have been brought in to help. The Forestry Service, Entomology Division, all this, we are pulling together resources as correctly proposed by the honourable member.
The Minister himself stated that there are room for improvement. Can I ask the Minister, now that we had the Samadhi of Sir Sivasagar Ramgoolam, and recently the passing away of Sir Nehru Jagannath, former Prime Minister, does the Minister not think that it is high time for him as Minister not to rely on what the board is saying, to have recourse to international consultants, paysagistes and other professionals, at least to have a fresh look of this garden?
We have enlisted services, I have said in my earlier answer, but let us not mix the part of the garden where we have the Samadhi and the botanical side of the garden. Experts for the Samadhi part is being looked into by the committee for the construction of the Samadhi. We have the participation of the Ministry of Arts and Culture, and so many other inputs coming from other services and departments. For the botanical garden side, we are enlisting services, as I said, of personnel from National Parks Conservation Service, Forestry Service, and other departments of government.
The table has been advised that PQB 494, 461, 496, 502 have been withdrawn. Next question.
B454.
Mr. Speaker, sir, with your permission, I will answer to both parliamentary questions B454 and B457 simultaneously, as they both relate to the same subject matter, that is pharmaceutical products. I wish to inform the House that my ministry stands guided by the Solid Waste Management Division of the Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change for the mode of disposal of expired products. As expired pharmaceutical products are considered as hazardous waste under the standards for hazardous waste regulation 2001. Mr. Speaker, sir, a total of 89 tons of pharmaceutical products expired since 2013 to 2020 were collected by the contractor and listed by the Solid Waste Management Division and stored at an interim facility for eventual disposal. These comprised 86.6 tons collected from the store of the Central Supplies Division at Pai, and the remaining 2.4 tons were collected from Sunray store at Coromandel. 65 tons of pharmaceutical waste were exported by the contractor in June 2020 to a licensed hazardous waste facility in Belgium for disposal. The facility has informed that the waste were destroyed in August 2020. The remaining waste, pharmaceutical waste, are expected to be exported by the contractor to the waste facility in Belgium by the end of June 2022 for disposal. The estimated value for the items expired from 2013 to 2020 amount to 40 million rupees. Mr. Speaker, sir, the main reasons which may lead to the expiry of pharmaceutical products or purchases are based on the previous year's consumption, plus an increase of approximately 10% or upon approval of the consultant in charge of the different specialties. Hence, the prescribing pattern cannot be exactly calculated. There is a change in consumption trend, change in prescribing patterns and protocols, and then late deliveries or unexpected delays in supply, leading to bridging exercises being carried out, which finally result in excess stock of pharmaceutical products remaining unused. Mr. Speaker, sir, as for the other parts of both questions, I am tabling the list of medicine expired from 2013 to 2020. As regards the list of expired drugs from 2021 to date, the list is still being compiled.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. In his reply, the Honourable Minister has acknowledged that a considerable amount of medical items go waste and have to be discarded every year. Honourable Minister, is there a problem of poor planning leading to over-purchasing? And will the Honourable Minister inform the House what is the total percentage of medical items that we purchase which get expired annually? Percentage.
Mr. Speaker, sir, let me first inform the House how the quantification of drugs to be procured is worked out in the public health sector. The procurement of pharmaceuticals is done centrally at the hospital and in their catchment areas, that is the area health centers, the community health centers, and the mediclinic. They send their annual request and annual estimate of drugs to the central supply division. And from there, at the hospital level also, the annual requirement is worked out by the pharmacy store manager and is based on consumption of the previous year, as I've already stated, plus an increase of approximately 10%. Now, what do they do with these figures? These figures are cross-checked by the pharmacist in consultation with the consultant in charge of different units concerned, medical, surgical, gynecology, anesthesiology, etc. And final estimated figures are then vetted by the regional health director and then submitted to the central supplies division for compilation. This is how this exercise of calculating what is the amount of drugs to be made available for the next year. Now, taking into consideration the existing stock, because still you have an existing stock, and any outstanding orders, figures are compiled and worked out at the central supplies division. Once this exercise is over, then a request for purchase of pharmaceuticals is sent to the pharmacist of procurement unit at the ministry to initiate procurement process. And now once this quantification exercise is completed and budget for the purchase of pharmaceutical earmarked by finance section, then you have all the procedures for the procurement. So it's not a question of poor planning. Be it in the private sector, it's a question of how do you estimate the requirement that you will need for the next year. And this is not an exact science where you can exactly calculate what is the amount of drugs that is you have to use for the next year. So that estimate is based upon this calculation, and that has been it is the same throughout the world. In any parts of the world, you will have a percentage of waste. Now, we can decrease the quantification, but at the same time, do you know how difficult it would be to have these medicine on time for these patients. And what will happen in doing bridging exercise, you will purchase these drugs 10 times higher. And that's what has been the report of the audit report. What is happening at times, the tendency is to cut down, to buy less of these medication. And what will happen, there would be a shortage of this medication and you will go and pay it on the local market 10 times higher.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honourable Minister just mentioned it in his 2020-2021 report. The Director of Audit refers to an absence of a disposal protocol for expired medical items. Honourable Minister, hasn't the time come to review the way expired pharmaceutical items, whether they are non-hazardous, non-recyclable, or hazardous, non-recyclable, and to provide relevant and adequate training to all those who are directly involved in the handling and disposing of these expired medical items?
Mr. Speaker, sir, as per my information, for disposal of drugs, there is a proper guidelines. And even drugs that are considered to be hazardous, it is already in a regulation. So there is a proper guideline of disposal. It is a question that why drugs are being disposed after being kept for a long period of time. But this all involves different procedures together with the Ministry of Environment. So till we don't complete all the procedures, and there is a contractor who's going to dispose these drugs, be it whether it will be exported, because these are hazardous drugs, so we have to follow the procedures involved. And that's why it takes time, and that's what was the report, the audit report, because we have to follow these procedures. Now, whether these drugs, are we doing it properly? This is the question is whether can we fasten the disposal of drugs. So that has to be worked out, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Fakir.
Ainsi, chaque année, des millions de roupies sont gaspillées quand ces médicaments périmés doivent être détruits, ce qui représente non seulement un gaspillage des fonds publics, mais qui, à la place, aurait pu être utilisé à meilleur escient, surtout en ces temps de grandes difficultés. Puis-je demander à l'honorable ministre comment il a l'intention de limiter ces gaspillages et améliorer la gestion des médicaments?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe that every member in this House, they do have a small pharmacy kit in their house, even especially if you have children. And how is it possible to calculate or to, to have exactly what is the drugs that we do store at home, be it, elementary drugs? It is a very difficult exercise. And what the Honorable is saying about gaspillage or about wasting of drugs, do we have any method of calculating exactly what would be the quantity of drugs that will be used? It's not possible, Mr. Speaker, sir. I've even referred to look for assistance from the WHO to see whether there is another logistic where drugs can be calculated based on population, based on disease pattern that we have in Mauritius. It is not available. If such, even in advanced countries, in European countries, it is not possible to estimate exactly about the quantity of drugs you require. And now you consider if there is wastage to be waste. I don't agree with this, first. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe in Mauritius, the percentage of drug that is being wasted every year is less than 3%.
Merci. Le ministre, peut-il nous dire quels sont les risques et les dangers sur la santé humaine des mauvaises méthodes, des méthodes inappropriées d'élimination des médicaments?
Mr. Speaker, sir, so I don't have much knowledge about the risk, but what I know, if you have a medicine, there are medicines that are expired, this is not proper for use. That is not at all good for use, and that's why we have an expiry date, and you have all the procedures involved for the disposal because they are considered hazardous or you call it toxic, and we have to follow these procedures.
Next question.
B455.
Mr. Speaker, sir, having regard to part A of the question, I'm informed by the Tourism Authority that one person claiming to live in the vicinity of Docks Lounge, located near Caudan waterfront, and purporting to represent a number of other inhabitants of that locality, has addressed several complaints to the Tourism Authority. With regards to part B, I'm informed by the Tourism Authority that the license of Misraim Company Limited, operating a restaurant under the trade name the Docks Lounge Restaurant, was suspended from 21 October 2021 to 30 November 2021.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Entre le 18 septembre 2021 et le 18 octobre 2021, soit sur un mois complet, les habitants de la localité des Salines, et notamment les responsables de la pagode Kwanti, ont adressé, à ma connaissance, parce que je les ai vus passer, pas moins de 10 lettres ou emails de complaintes de pollution sonore au Premier ministre adjoint, au ministre de l'Environnement, au commissaire de police et à la Tourism Authority. Et ils expriment notamment leur souffrance. Puis-je demander au Premier ministre adjoint combien de descentes de police il y a eu au Docks Lounge et combien de contraventions ont été servies à cet établissement par la police de l'environnement et la police du port depuis le début des complaintes.
Firstly, let me repeat what I said. I have asked that the information be verified. And according to my information, there is only one person who has addressed complaints to the Tourism Authority in regard to this matter. That person purports to represent other inhabitants, but no other inhabitant has written to the Tourism Authority. Now, as regards the number of, le nombre de descentes, etc., je n'ai pas ces informations sous la main. Évidemment, s'il y avait une question s'y référant, je pourrais obtenir et fournir tous les renseignements à l'Assemblée.
As a matter of general principle, the license is granted by the Tourism Authority, but noise pollution control is under the Ministry of Environment, if I'm right. How does it work? Because many other places, I take the case of Eben, where there is very high level of noise at night, nearby residential area. And people keep complaining, and so far nothing has been done.
Now, I'm sure the honourable gentleman, who's now an experienced parliamentarian, might care to put a relevant question concerning Eben to my colleague, the Minister of Environment. This questions concern Caudan waterfront and the Ministry of Tourism. All I can say is that I understand from the Tourism Authority that when they do get such complaints, they refer the matter to the Police de l'Environnement, and when considering to take action, they stand informed inter alia by information provided by the Police de l'Environnement.
Le Premier ministre adjoint a dit et a répété effectivement qu'il y a une personne qui, je le précise, a été désignée par un ensemble d'habitants comme étant le porte-parole, et ils l'écrivent noir sur blanc à plusieurs reprises. Et au cours de l'un de ces courriers, on voit une vingtaine de noms de familles avec les adresses et numéros de téléphone qui peuvent être contactés à tout moment. Au-delà de la souffrance et de l'épuisement exprimé par les habitants, ces derniers ont la perception, je dis bien la perception, d'une impunité des exploitants du Docks Lounge. Et si je me réfère à ce seul courrier du 18 octobre 2021, ils écrivent « We wonder, since the restaurant is operating a discotheque illegally until early hours, if ever it gets a certain kind of protection from the authority. » Et je dois dire, Monsieur le Président, que la perception de ses habitants a été accentuée depuis que le principal locataire du Docks Lounge a annoncé publiquement, nous l'avons tous vu, lors d'une conférence de presse le 10 février 2022, son adhésion au mouvement socialiste militant. Puis-je demander au Premier ministre adjoint la garantie devant notre Assemblée nationale qu'il n'y aura aucune ingérence et aucune protection politique dans le traitement de cette affaire?
Bien évidemment, Monsieur le Président, je vous offre tout de suite une telle garantie.
Next question.
B456.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Commission of Inquiry on Drug Trafficking 2018 had among its recommendations proposed that the codeine phosphate program be stopped since it is not evidence-based in the treatment of people who use drugs. I'm informed that codeine-based treatment is not recommended in international guidelines researches for community-based opioid detoxification. For example, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence Guidelines, United Kingdom, the Department of Health Guidelines, United Kingdom, the Maudsley Guidelines, UK, the World Health Organization, the Leeds study, the meta-analysis by Carney. So all these institutions, they don't advise use of codeine phosphate. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the above context, my ministry informed non-governmental organizations concerned that the codeine phosphate program is being stopped and advised them to redirect their beneficiaries, if any, to addiction units and methadone daycare centers. Currently, medical health officers attend to patients at NGOs in order to assess them, tailor treatment with respect to their needs, and offer counseling to the patients and their families. Mr. Speaker, sir, the alternative medicines available for opioid detoxification in place of codeine phosphate are methadone, buprenorphine, naltrexone, which are evidence-based and recommended by international organizations. Mr. Speaker, sir, the methadone substitution therapy, the opioid substitution therapy involves the substitution of injecting opioid drugs with oral medication that effectively minimizes craving and withdrawal symptoms, thereby enabling people who inject drugs to stop injecting drugs. In Mauritius, it is the methadone substitution therapy. The heroin detoxification is carried out using reduced doses of Suboxone over a 2-week period to help people with heroin dependence to achieve a drug-free lifestyle. Mr. Speaker, sir, over and above the treatment provided, psychosocial care is provided to complement the pharmacological management offered by specialist doctors and their multidisciplinary team guided by evidence-based treatment and international best practices. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to reassure the House that my ministry is fully committed to ensure that adequate treatment is offered to patients to suit their individual needs and to rehabilitate them. Thank you.
Thank you. My question pertains to young people newly addicted to heroin. The NGOs had a treatment program for them, and to which they were quite receptive. Now that the use of codeine sulfate has been seized, has the ministry noticed an increase in the permanent addiction to heroin from among the young people community, being given their reluctance to use the substitution drugs that the minister has mentioned, mainly on concerns of side effects, fertility ones being a related one?
Mr. Speaker, sir, so again, I have to point out that, see, those who wish to stop drugs and whenever they do embark on program of detoxification with codeine phosphate, so this is not recommended. In fact, most of those who do use codeine phosphate, in the long run, they do not rehabilitate. They finally keep on the same track of using drugs. So let me inform the House that phasing out of codeine phosphate to other substitution methods and treatment, especially methadone, have been worked out by the government medical officers in close collaboration with drug victims undergoing such treatment. You have to obviously offer other treatment for them. It is a fact that certain resistance, that Mr. Honorable Member, you're correct to say, there are certain resistance to change that has been noted on behalf of certain, should I say, isolated patients on treatment, and in some cases, from organizations mandated to accompany patients in their treatment process. So it is exactly in such circumstances that NGOs, which are financed by NSIF, so they have an essential role to play, because they have to accommodate these patients so that these patients are offered other treatment as well as psychosocial treatment.
In his original reply, the Honourable Minister has mentioned that patients are being redirected to addiction units. My understanding is that there is a problem of waiting time over there. It goes into months. Can the Honourable Minister confirm that this is so, and what is being done to alleviate this problem?
Mr. Speaker, sir, yes, there is a waiting time, and the Ministry is doing, everything to try to decrease that waiting time. Now, because of the, all the confinement, we were not able to admit patients during that time. Now, there is a backlog, and I'm sure that in the coming month, we will be over with this backlog. And those who are interested to embark on such detoxification program, it won't take much time. And at the same time, the Ministry is also planning to open another center for female detox, and that will be in the near future, in the coming month.
Yes, I welcome the construction, the setting up of this female unit, but even from among the male community, can the Ministry consider having more of such addiction units, being given the high number of people on drugs these days?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. In fact, we are working on how, even in our existing capacities, in our existing facilities, we can increase the capacity of intake of those who are willing to go in a program of detoxification.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister, who is very versatile in this particular aspect, will know that methadone is for substitute therapy and Suboxone is for detox. Will his ministry liaise with the harm reduction unit to consider what is now being done in certain parts of Europe of a maintenance dose using both Suboxone and methadone in an attempt to decrease the number of drug addicts that have to attend treatment centers?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a project that is being worked out. At the same time, we have to see that there is no diversion. So this is the main issue of diversion. And methadone is a product that you can't give it on a home-based therapy. You have to give it, it has to be used for within 24 hours. So we're working on that different, facility to offer treatment. But at the same time, we have to be very careful with the diversion that may happen with offering the other, the other drug that the Honourable Member is mentioning.
Last question.
In relation to the waiting time for the people not to become worse in terms of addiction, can the Ministry contemplate or does it make sense for the Ministry to contemplate the use of Suboxone as an outpatient treatment for those who are on heroin?
Mr. Speaker, sir, initiating someone on Suboxone, it will require active medical surveillance, because the quantity, that is the dose that you have to introduce and taper that dose, it will require that attention first, or else it will not work, because it will depend what is the requirement of somebody. Some individuals may require a higher dose, others may require a lower dose. So because of that close monitoring, and if ever you take the drug beyond that required dose and at the same time you inject drug, then it will end up into a very, very serious issue.
Next question.
B458.
With your permission, I wish to draw the attention of the honourable member, if he's not aware, that in 2012-2013, when his party was in government, the construction of the drain, here what I say, I need to say what I need to say. Construction of drain at Fond du Sac was in the list of priorities. A meeting was even held by the then two senior ministers with the inhabitants of Fond du Sac and other stakeholders in Sir Harry Al-Baghdadi Hall to inform them of the design of the drain to be constructed and the number of private lands to be acquired. But as usual, Mr. Speaker, sir, nothing happened, they only sell dreams. It is now this government which does not only announce the implementation of projects, they can say louder, but is committed and is undertaking such projects, including the construction of the drain project in Fond du Sac. We are doing what the honourable member's government could not do. In fact, the National Development Unit of my ministry was on 30th April 2019, following a procurement exercise, awarded a contract for an amount of 104 million to Square Deal Multipurpose Cooperative Society Limited for the construction of a drain at Fond du Sac. Works have started on 23rd May 2019, and the scope thereof include construction of 2 meters high flood wall over a length of 700 meters, construction and upgrading of a swale of a depth of 3 meters and wide by 18 meters over a stretch of 1.3 kilometers, construction of masonry line drain over 400 meters, construction of a flood retardation basin and of a capacity 83,000 square meters upstream of the cut-off drain with flow regulation structure at outlet. And lastly, construction of culverts over cut-off drain across sugarcane fields, private lands, 4 Back Road and Fond du Sac Main Road, B11 Road. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed that as at date, 93% of the works have been completed. There has been delay in the completion of the project, mainly due to the lockdown owing to COVID-19 in 2020 and 2021, bad weather, relocation of services, and more importantly, acquisition of privately owned land. And I should here, Mr. Speaker, thank my two colleagues, the Honourable Dr. Ramdani and Minister Tilak, for helping to be personally involved in the helping and the PPS to taking the lead on such a project and making it happen. With regard to part A of the question, indeed, a stretch of some 250 meters. I'm happy my good friend Adila Mamia is very attentive to what I'm saying and repeating after me. Yes. He's learning. Indeed, a stretch of some 250 meters of masonry drain remain to be completed. And here, the honourable member should be aware about the reason of this outstanding work, because this is where they go to Beloroti, while my friend were actually doing the job. In fact, the project itself required the acquisition of some 86 plots of private land. And government faced numerous challenges in the acquisition exercise. As at date, 74 plots have already been acquired, and this is where the major part of the drain has already been completed. I'm informed that with respect to the remaining 12 plots, the owners are still objecting to the acquisition of this concern, and this concern the 250 meters of drain. I'm advised that the Ministry of Housing and Land and Use Planning is in the process of acquiring the lands compulsorily. Mr. Speaker, sir, during the heavy rainfall event of 2nd April 2022, 160 millimeters of rain were recorded in the north, leading to the flooding on the stretch that remained to be completed in the future. 2 houses were flooded and 2 boundary walls of a total of 66 meters collapsed. On the 8th April 2022, the private land owners concerned were informed by the NDU of the temporary excavation works to be undertaken with a view to mitigating further flooding in the surrounding, to which they objected, Mr. Speaker. They agreed to only cleaning works being carried out. Same was completed on the 15th April 2022. On 20 April 2022, these landowners objected to any excavation work to be undertaken. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm sorry to say, but this smells the bad faith and politically motivated move to incite people not to let government carry out works on this remaining stretch. Here, I wish to emphasize on the effort government is making to ensure the safety of our fellow citizens by constructing drains where needed. I am therefore making an appeal to the collaboration of our citizens for their support in ensuring our safety. Once the compulsory acquisition is completed, which is a matter of days now, and I again thank Honorable Tilak and Honorable Ramdani for the support, it will take a few weeks for the project at Fond du Sac to be completed. Mr. Speaker, sir, as regard to part B of the question, the NDU is only an implementing organization. It is not mandated to carry out evaluation of material losses. I would advise the honorable gentleman to address this issue to the authority concerned. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. This was one opportunity for this minister to rise and to answer the question as a patriot, as a honorable minister of this republic. But I am not impressed at all by his gimmicks, and he lives up to expectation, and if we have to bail a roti for this nation, we will do it, because we care for our nation. Again and again we will do it.
Honorable member,
he has imputed...
That was his reply. Please, I am on my feet, you listen. You put the question, the minister replied, that was a reply. Now you put your supplementary question, which is a question, not a debate.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, there is a letter by these families. I am not talking as a politician. These families wrote a letter on 10th April. And in this letter addressed to the Prime Minister, I'm referring to paragraph 7. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, sir. At present, measures promised by MPs have not shown any progress. And taking into consideration consistent and persisting heavy rainfall events across the region, we request all relevant authorities to expedite this urgent matter. Honorable Minister, the traumatized residents of Mont-Selmont, Mont-Plaisir and vicinity would like to know, in simple terms, when the outstanding works will be completed so that they can feel safe and secure in their homes.
For the reply, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Next, supplementary. You've said that, and you will not be able to compensate or to carry out, to gauge the losses. May I request this honourable minister whether he can consider the request of these families, there are 13 families, whether funds from the Prime Minister's Relief Fund could be used to compensate them for the losses.
That does not fall under my mandate, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you very much. And you're listening to what you have said.
I hope they do.
Next question.
B459.
Mr. Speaker, sir, as I stated in my reply to a parliamentary question, B366, on the Abdul Rahman Abdul Government School, the infrastructural works thereof consisted of 2 phases. Phase 1 of the project has been completed. Phase 2 of the project, consisting of the demolition of the remaining old buildings and construction of classroom and administration blocks, as well as the setting up of playfields, is still to be pursued. I am informed that for this phase, 2 bidding exercises had been carried out at the level of the Central Procurement Board. No bids were received for the first one. Following the second bidding exercise, the CPB submitted its recommendation to my ministry in October 2020. The ministry issued a notification of award to the bidders and initiated action for the award to the selected bidder, namely Super Construction Company Limited. However, the latter submitted a request for an increase in the contract price, stating that there is a rise in costs, freight costs and other direct charges. The request could not be acceded to, as it was not in line with the provisions of the bidding document, which do not provide for price adjustments at the time of awarding a contract. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry of National Infrastructure and Community Development has been requested to review and prepare fresh bidding documents. I'm informed that the bidding documents are being finalized.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it is very sad that up to now the works has not been started for the second phase of the project. The first phase was in 2017, and referring to the same PQ that the Honourable Minister just referred to, that is PQ B366, where she stated that works will start in December 2019 and completion date was scheduled for July 2021. May I ask the Honourable Minister, what was the contract amount when the contract was awarded, and what amount is the contractor now requesting?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the contract amount was 55,268,888 rupees. I understand that he had asked for an increase, but the request could not be acceded to because it was not in line with the provisions of the documents, bidding documents. So that's why it was not acceded to. But now that we have already asked MNI to carry out the new bidding exercise, to prepare the documents for the new bidding exercise, and I'm told that it's being finalized. I do agree with you, it has taken a long time, and I'm also very unhappy about this particular issue. But as I've just stated, there were problems, and initially also, I remember in the initial phase, the contractor had passed away, and we had to wait a long time to get someone to complete the work. So I totally agree with you that we should have completed this work long time back, but as I've just explained, there were certain issues that cropped up that have delayed the process.
Can I ask the Honourable Minister, what's the specific problem with this school, with this contract? Because normally when there is a public tender, public bid, you have several companies who bid for the contract. Why is it in this case you have only one company who had make a bid?
No, Mr. Speaker, sir, there were a number of companies that had made the bid. We have 5 companies. You want me to name them? There were 5 companies who which bid for that. And we have noted that we could not move on to the next because the validity period had elapsed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Minister, can you please inform the House, after the bid was launched on 25th of April 2019 for the project, which was non-responsive, why it took 14 months for a new bid to be launched?
I'll just give the dates, Mr. Speaker, sir. So the bid was launched in 2019. There were no successful bidders for that. So finally, it was relaunched in October 2020. And letters of notification were dated 10th November 2020. So now we had to go to State Law Office and get information and advice on the way forward. And finally, we were asked to relaunch the bids, and MNI has been working on the bid documents. I cannot explain the long delay in the preparation of the papers, but I have been told that the papers are getting finalized and the bids would soon be launched.
Next question.
B460.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the District Council of Grand Port that an amount of 400,000 has been earmarked in this financial year under the LDP project, construction and upgrading of amenities for the proposed extension of the Midlands Village Hall. The project consists of the construction of a kitchenette, and a bidding exercise was launched on the 14th of December 2021. However, no bid was received. The District Council of Grand Port invited bids anew on the 9th of February 2022, and no responsive bids was received. I'm informed that a fresh tender exercise will be invited by the 27th of April 2022. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the other hand, I have received a request from the Honourable Member with regard to the proposed extension of the Midlands Village Hall by 100 square metres, and same could be considered in the next financial year depending on the availability of the funds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I thank the Minister for the reply. Can the Honourable Vice Prime Minister inform the House whether the proposed structure, as been said in his reply, on the engineering side, will be able to cater for future developments such as a foot 5 on the concrete slab, which will be a first in a multi-purpose hall in Mauritius?
Yeah, I think we'll have to take that in consideration. It's a good idea, Mr. Speaker, sir, and we'll have to take that into consideration in our specification, if you want to put on the floor.
Speaker, sir. I'm given to understand that the Grand Port District Council has been given 400,000 rupees for that project in the last financial year. And in those two tender exercises, the tendered amount has been over 1 million rupees. Now, can we know from the Honourable Vice Prime Minister whether for the next budget exercise sufficient funds will be given to the Grand Port District Council under the Local Development Fund in order to carry on with the construction of that village hall?
There are two projects there. The first one was a building of the kitchenette for 400,000 rupees. And as I mentioned earlier, there was no responsive bid for this project. And if we don't get any bid, I think we are going to try to do it in-house. That's what we are planning for the kitchenette. As far as for the extension, which the honourable member just asked, for 100 meters square, we'll have to include it in the budget for next year.
Can the Honourable Vice Prime Minister inform the House whether the proposed construction of the kitchenette, will it be started before the end of this financial year, because the launching of the next bidding will be done shortly?
We'll try. As I mentioned, now we are trying to do it in-house, and we'll try to get restarted before the end of this financial year.
Next question.
B463.
Mr. Speaker, sir, Russia invaded Ukraine on the 24th of February 2022. This attack caused a major disruption in the world supply of petroleum products, as Russia is the third largest oil producer behind the United States and Saudi Arabia. Crude oil surged above 100 USD per barrel the day Russia invaded Ukraine, and the prices continued to climb as the conflict intensified. The reason for the increase in prices is the international supply-driven shock, which causes the barrel of crude oil to remain abnormally high. At the moment, there is little visibility on when the war will end. In this respect, I am informed that the new reference price for mogas is $1,065.54 per metric ton, while the exchange rate stood at 43.50 rupees against the dollar. Economically speaking, the retail price of mogas should have been increased to 73.93 rupees per litre, that is by 12 rupees 63 per litre, which would have meant an increase of 20.60%. On the other hand, the new reference price of gas oil is $138.12 per barrel, and the new price should have been 66.90 rupees per litre, that is an increase of 21.80 rupees per litre, representing 48.34%. However, as provided under the Consumer Protection Control of Price of Petroleum Products Regulation 2011, only a maximum increase of 10% is allowed. Therefore, the retail price of mogas has been increased by 6.10 rupees and gas oil by 4.50 rupees, which represent an increase of 9.95% and 9.98% respectively.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Is the Minister aware?
I gave him the flow. I gave you the flow.
Okay.
You carry on.
Okay.
Don't distribute the flow.
Not share. Well, since February, the price of 1 barrel of Brent oil has fallen from 130 USD to 100 USD until yesterday, which amounts to a decrease of 30 USD per barrel. In the spirit of alleviating the burden of consumers, will the Honourable Minister call upon the STC to review the price of mogas and gas oil immediately, instead of waiting for the price review mechanism to take a decision in July?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't know where he got that figure from. The figures I have is, I'll tell you the evolution of the price of Brent on the international market. Okay, from the period December 2021, that is from the 1st of December 2021 to 21st of April 2022. And I'm saying an average monthly. December 2021, the price of Brent was 74.96. January 22, 87.219. February 2022, 98.185. March 2022, 118.810. April 2022, 104.728. So it is on the upward trend.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Is the Minister aware that the import cost of petroleum products have been continuously increasing during the last few days and few years? And today the total amount of excise duty and VAT only on bogas is 20 rupees 99 cents. And on gas oil, it is 11 rupees 16 cents. And whether the Minister, in collaboration with a colleague, Minister of Finance, to introduce any concrete policy or to take any decision in the days to come as a matter of urgency to reduce the rising price of bogas and gas oil.
Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a matter for policy decision. As explained the PNQ during the morning, the Prime Minister explained the different contributions and their purpose. So I do not intend to go through these contributions and levies again. I'm sure the Honourable Minister of Finance is taking good note, and we will look into the matter if needed.
Next question.
6-4.
Mr. Speaker, sir, following the decision to introduce Creole Mauritian in grade 1 as an optional subject in primary school curriculum, an expression of interest was launched among substantive primary school educators, general purpose, and deputy headmasters in post to teach Creole Mauritian. It was never a question of their being seconded for duty, as these primary school educators and deputy headmasters were already on the establishment of the ministry. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that there were some 40 in-service primary school educators who opted for the teaching of Creole Mauritian in 2012. The number of primary school educators teaching Creole Mauritian rose to 80 in 2015, and there are now 57 of them still teaching KM. These primary school educators retained all their terms and conditions of service, including seniority placing and promotional prospects. They followed a training course in KM at the Mauritius Institute of Education. Mr. Speaker, sir, as regards Part B of the question, additional teaching resources were required with a growing number of pupils opting for Creole Mauritian, and to that effect, 115 primary school educators to specifically teach Creole Mauritian were appointed in 2015 after successful completion of a 2-year training course at the MIE. At that date, there are 166 primary school educators in post, and the services of a new batch of 22 trainee primary school educators have been enlisted on the 13th April 2022. Arrangements are being made for these trainee primary school educators to follow a training course at the MIE. Mr. Speaker, sir, insofar as Part C of the question is concerned, all primary school educators have the same conditions of service and status, and they all fall under the grade of primary school educator. They are all governed by the same scheme of service.
Monsieur le Président, plusieurs de ces General Purpose Educators m'ont exprimé leur crainte à l'effet qu'après plus de 10 ans de service au service du créole mauricien, qu'ils soient appelés à reprendre leurs anciennes fonctions. La ministre peut-elle rassurer ces General Purpose Educators qui enseignent actuellement le créole mauricien par rapport à leur appréhension?
Mr. Speaker, sir, they will all remain as Creole teachers, educators for Creole Mauritian, as long as they wish to do so. There's no intention on part of the ministry to revert them back to their original position. And in any way, they will continue to benefit from the same conditions of service, same status, and all their promotional prospects will be maintained.
La ministre peut-elle nous indiquer le nombre d'écoles primaires où l'enseignement du créole mauricien est dispensé et peut-on connaître, n'est pas dispensé, pardon. où l'enseignement du créole mauricien n'est pas dispensé. Peut-on connaître la raison et pourrait-elle déposer une liste de ces écoles?
Mr. Speaker, sir, we have 166 primary schools offering CAM. 104, sorry, just give me 1 second, I'll give you the 181 schools offering CAM, 135 government primary schools, and 46 RCEA schools.
Next question. You still have one?
Dans l'éventualité qu'il y ait un exercice de promotion au niveau justement de l'enseignement du créole mauricien, l'honorable ministre peut-elle nous dire si encore une fois, les General Purpose Educators auront la possibilité de postuler eux aussi?
Certainement, Monsieur le Président, puisque c'est basé sur la seniorité. Et ces enseignants auront la possibilité d'être promus dépendant de leur temps de service, etc.
Next question.
B465. Monsieur le Président, la Public Procurement Act ne prévoit pas de fonction, de pouvoir ou de responsabilité spécifique pour les ministres en matière de marché public d'un organisme public. Ainsi, la question de la démarcation de pouvoir, de fonctions et responsabilités des ministres et des fonctionnaires ne se pose pas. En fait, selon la Public Procurement Act, c'est le directeur général, en tant que responsable administratif d'un organisme public, qui est responsable des questions de marché public. En outre, la section 51 de la loi garantit également que les fonctions de passation de marché sont exercées par des personnes formées et compétentes en matière de passation de marché, par exemple les agents du cadre de passation de marché et d'approvisionnement. Ils exercent leur fonction conformément aux directives établies par le Procurement Policy Office. Merci.
Can I ask the Honourable Minister of Finance, whether in the process of procurement, whether ministers are entitled to have access to file and give the recommendation and directives prior of award of contracts? That's my first.
Monsieur le Président, je viens de le dire, rien dans la loi ne prévoit que le ministre peut dicter ou entrer dans ce processus de procurement. Donc, il n'y a rien dans la loi.
We have witnessed from the PAC report very recently that officers have received clear instruction from ministers as regards procurement and award of contract. Can the minister tell us if that is true?
Monsieur le Président, comme je l'ai dit, moi je regarde la loi, je regarde ce qui est écrit dans la loi. Donc s'il y a un officier qui vient dire qu'il a reçu des instructions, il n'a qu'à respecter la loi. La loi garantit sa fonction. Il n'a qu'à respecter les provisions de la loi. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Merci.
You still have a question?
Are you saying that they have not respected the law? Because the PAC report clearly stated that officers have received instruction from the ministers. So,
Monsieur le Président, c'est très simple, je viens de répéter ce qui est dans la loi. Ils sont garantis par ces provisions de la loi. Si jamais il y a eu interférence, il n'a qu'à écrire au Premier ministre, à leur supérieur, écrire à l'ICAC pour dire qu'ils ont reçu des pressions. C'est aussi simple que ça. C'est écrit dans la loi. Et je pense que jusqu'à présent, on est un pays qui est gouverné par la loi. Donc, les officiers, les fonctionnaires, si jamais ils ont reçu ce genre de pression, ils n'ont qu'à le faire. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
This question has sufficiently been canvassed. We move to the next question.
B466.
Monsieur le Président, dans le discours du budget 2021-2022, j'ai annoncé qu'un nouveau pôle économique, à savoir l'industrie de l'énergie verte, serait développée pour promouvoir une croissance forte et inclusive à Maurice. En outre, l'objectif de ce gouvernement en termes de production d'électricité à partir de sources renouvelables a été fixé à 60% du mix énergétique total d'ici 2030. Le gouvernement a récemment adopté le rapport commandé par le ministère de l'Énergie et des Services publics sur la feuille de route décennale pour l'intégration des véhicules électriques. Ce rapport a également identifié un certain nombre d'obstacles à l'adoption des voitures électriques, notamment le prix d'achat d'une voiture électrique plus élevé que celui d'une voiture conventionnelle, l'offre limitée de voitures électriques sur le marché local, la distance de conduite limitée en raison de batteries électriques actuelles et la disponibilité des stations de recharge dans le pays. Compte tenu des contraintes identifiées, le ministère des Transports terrestres examine actuellement les différentes options envisageables. Mon ministère prendra dûment en considération toutes recommandations faites à ce sujet. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Whether the Minister is aware that it is a right time to introduce maximum electric vehicles as petrol and diesel costs are very high in Mauritius. And it is also a fact that there are nearly 2% electric vehicles that are presently used in the ministries. And if so, what action is being taken by the government to increase the number of electric vehicles in the country?
Monsieur le Président, comme je l'ai souligné dans ma réponse, le ministère des Transports publics est en train de travailler sur le sujet et il va nous faire des recommandations au ministère des Finances et suite à ces recommandations, on suivra la politique qui sera le plus appropriée.
In a move to reduce the carbon footprint and to reduce the dependence on coal-based in line with the COP26 commitment, whether he has notified or has issued any revised guidelines to the Minister of Finance for any budgetary initiative for promoting the electric vehicles for the next financial year?
Monsieur le Président, il y a au niveau j'ai appris qu'au niveau du ministère des Transports publics, il y a un comité qui travaille sur ce sujet et qu'en temps et lieu, ils vont nous faire des recommandations pour le prochain budget.
Last question.
Whether the government is aware that electric vehicles owners have expressed their concern over a significant number of charging stations, especially along the national highways, and if so, what steps are being taken by the government to increase the number of charging stations?
Monsieur le Président, comme je l'ai dit dans ma réponse, nous sommes au courant de ces contraintes, parmi d'autres contraintes concernant le prix de ces voitures électriques, concernant l'offre limitée des voitures électriques, etc. Mais nous sommes en train de travailler sur ce concept, sur cette politique, et comme je l'ai dit, le ministère des Transports publics va venir avec des propositions concrètes pour, je pense, le prochain budget, et nous ferons le nécessaire si c'est approprié. Merci.
Next question.
E467.
Mr. Speaker, sir, following the announcement in the budget speech year 2021-2022 for the provision of 500 additional Fisher cards, my ministry has proceeded with the betterment of the policy regarding the conditions for the registration of artisanal fishers. Mr. Speaker, sir, with your permission, I'm tabling the enhanced policy approved by government. Mr. Speaker, sir, from 2010 to 2014, it is good to note when others were in power, the fisher community was the least of their concern, and it's good to note that not a single fisher card was issued, although there were so many pending applications. In the year 2015, under the Prime Ministership of late Saniru Jagannath, this ministry came up with a database of applicants, including those who had applied since 2009. For the period 2015 to 2019, 131 applicants followed the general fisher course and were issued fisher cards accordingly. As at 31st December 2021, there were still 725 applicant artisanal fishers in the database. after a monitoring exercise, out of 725 applicants, 520 have been found to be neither in gainful employment nor holder of any trade license. They have been shortlisted and sent to the Ministry of Health and Wellness to undergo a medical examination in their respective regions. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that with a view to encouraging women fishers to join fishing activities, women applicants were given priority of consideration irrespective of the date of application. As at date, out of the 520 applicants referred for medical examination, my ministry has received a list of 271 applicant artisanal fishers who are medically fit to work at sea, as certified by a government medical officer. Upon receipt of a valid character certificate and upon confirmation of their being fully vaccinated, my ministry made necessary arrangements for the candidates to undergo the enhanced policy to undergo a swimming assessment conducted by the Coast Guard Training School. Thereafter, 210 candidates who have already successfully completed the swimming assessment were recommended to follow the general fisher course, and the remaining 61 candidates will undergo the test shortly. The clearance with respect to medical fitness, character certificate, and vaccination are still awaited to do the swimming assessment for the remaining 249 applicants. Mr. Speaker, sir, the training course is being dispensed jointly by the Fisheries Training and Extension Center, FITEC, and the Mauritius Maritime Training Academy. The general fisher course, which has a normal duration of 5 weeks, has been customized to 8 days, given that the applicant fishers who are active in off-lagoon fishing are conversant with the safety and security aspect of fishing activities. Moreover, applicant fishers reckoning around 2 years' experience in fishing activities have been exempted the practical session at sea. However, young applicants without any fishing experience would have to complete the practical session at sea. I also wish to inform the House that as at date, 106 applicant artisanal fishers have been registered as artisanal fisher, and a relevant fisher card has been issued to each of them on 23rd March 2022. 104 applicant artisanal fishers have fulfilled the criteria for the training on the general fisher course. The first batch has started the training on 19th of April, and the second batch will start on 9th May 2022. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to the second part of the question, I understand that the honourable member is referring to the compensation paid to the registered artisanal fishers aged 65 years and above, and those medically unfit irrespective of their age upon return of their fisher cards. Again, in the budget 2021-2022, this government came up with a retirement plan for the payment of a compensation of 52,500 to registered fishers. Furthermore, the retired fishers are allowed to transfer their fisher cards and fishing boats to their heirs, obviously to those who meet the registration criteria. As at 15 April 2022, there were 303 registered artisanal fishers aged 65 above. 265, which represents 87%, have submitted their option form for the compensation of 52,500 against the return of their fisher cards. It's good to know that out of the 265, 50 registered artisanal fishers have applied to transfer of their cards to their heirs, and 215 have submitted their forms without any request for transfer. As a date, compensation of a total amount of this, the Prime Minister during the PNQ of this morning missed this one. As a date, compensation of a total amount of 13,650,000 have already been paid to 260 beneficiaries of the above budget measure. Payment is effected as and when option forms are submitted, and for the remaining 5 deceased cases, payment to the heirs is in the process. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that in addition to the allocation of the 500 fisher cards as per the budgetary measure, new application will be entertained to replace the retired ones as the retirement scheme is ongoing. As of today, 265 additional new applications can be entertained to replace the retired fishers. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me also inform the House that the rate of bad weather allowance has increased from 258 in the year 2014, as I did say it last time, to 475 rupees this year. Despite the economic downturn, this government has given due recognition to the métier de pêcheur. All the above measures and still others to come clearly show that this government recognizes the contribution of the fisher community to the national economy. Thank you.
Can the Minister inform the House what assistance has been provided to registered fishers for their safety and security at sea?
Mr. Speaker, sir, on 23rd March 2022, 106 applicant fishers who had successfully completed the general fisher course obtained their fisher registration cards. Furthermore, my ministry provided them with the following items, like ice box, life jacket, raincoats. I wish to inform the House that all the registered fishers have previously been provided with the above items. Furthermore, my ministry has already initiated procurement procedures for the following equipments: handheld marine VHF transceiver, walkie-talkie, to facilitate communication with the Fisheries Protection Service and the National Coast Guard; waterproof multifunctional electronic strobe light for distress signals in case of emergency; and also basic boat essential bailers safety kit, among others.
How's the rationale behind the condition of payment of bad weather allowance against attendance?
Mr. Speaker, sir, being given that the bad weather allowance is paid at the rate of 475 rupees from public funds for days that fishers are unable to go fishing. From the new condition, they are assigned a task work to clean the fish landing station, jetty and shoreline in their respective locality. I'm informed that previously large net fishermen were called upon to clean their respective fish landing station, shoreline. However, because of an issue of insurance, there was one fisherman who got injured, and this practice was stopped. Now a fisherman who happens to get injured now during the cleanup exercise is covered by an insurance, and as per budgetary measure, this ministry has contracted a group personal accident cover-up, and we have reinstated this scheme.
Mr. Speaker, sir, can the Honourable Minister state from those fishermen already allocated how many concern the South-East region, and can he table the list?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think the Honourable Member will be happy to note that since 2019, I think 2019, there were 20 fisher cards which were issued. 11 out of 20 came from Southeast. 2020, 8 out of 20. And 2022, 61 out of 106. So I think.
Can the Honourable Minister tell us regarding the quantum of the retirement scheme that was proposed in the last budget? Can the Minister tell the House whether the quantum will be increased in the next budget, as 52,000 is inappropriate?
I can't answer that for the time being, Mr. Speaker, sir. No, not really.
Next question.
B468.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. I had two official visits to Rodrigo Island, first on 13th to 14th April, and the second one on 20th to 21st April of this year. For the visit of 13th to 14th of April, I had meetings with the new Chief Commissioner Deputy Chief Commissioner and Commissioners of Rodrigues Regional Assembly. I also had this formal focus meeting with the new Commissioner for Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Production, Forestry, Plant and Animal Quarantine, together with departmental head of the said commission and other senior staff. I also had face-to-face meetings with onion growers in the region of Pau-Sud-Est, Mourouk, Anse-Baleine, and other regions in Pau-Sud-Est area. Focus meetings also were held with bean growers in Baie-Topaz, and focus meeting with livestock breeders at Malabor. Immediate decisions were taken during the said visit for opening of an antenna office of FARE, which will be shared with Small Farmers Welfare Fund, and the identified place is in Citronelle. I wish to highlight that the opening of an antenna office of FARE in Rodrigue Island is provided in the budget of this year, but there has been some delay in the execution of this project. For the offshore visit on 20th and 21st April, this was specifically for livestock breeders and with a view to effective measures for the movement of animals from Rodrigues to Mauritius. As the House will appreciate, movement of animals was restricted due to the outbreak of foot and mouth disease. Fortunately, movement has resumed. However, under strict conditions, movement of animals is undertaken solely by the Mauritius Meat Authority, and a consignment arrived in Mauritius on Saturday morning.
Thank you. Have the Honourable Minister take cognizance on the prevalence of FMD in Rodrigues, and what's the result?
Yes, when I visited Rodrigue Island on 20th to 21st April, I was accompanied by two veterinary officers from the Livestock and Veterinary Division of my ministry. The two officers stayed for a longer period. I returned on the 21st. The purpose of the visit of the two vets were precisely to have samples taken randomly all over Rodrigue Island for the purposes of serosurveillance. So I am informed that samples were taken from livestock, from sheep, from beef, from even chicken, and all those samples have been brought to Mauritius for tests. The results, once obtained, will give us a clear picture of the situation as regards FMD, and not only FMD, but other diseases. The results are still awaited.
It seems that all the livestock in Rodrigues have been fully vaccinated, and I want to ask the Honourable Minister why individual buyers from Mauritius are not still allowed to buy live animals from Rodrigues.
I wish to place on record our appreciation for l'Agence Française de Développement and Indian Ocean Commission for the vaccination program, which had to be undertaken during lockdown last year. It is precisely to answer the question of the honourable member specifically as to the when will normal movement of animals from Rodrigue and Mauritius resume. We need to do that serosurveillance exercise. After the serosurveillance exercise, then decisions will be taken in the light of the results obtained.
Next question.
B469.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed that there is a reduction in the total number of reported positive cases over the past month. A decrease in the number of deaths linked to COVID-19 has also been noted. They are as follows: January 55, February 68, March 65, April till 21st, 10.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we are all aware, Mr. Speaker, sir, that in buses, metro, and all public transport, people are like sardines en boîte during rush hours, I must admit. The protocol is no more observed in malls, shopping centers. My question, Mr. Speaker, sir, is can the Honourable Minister enlighten the House why he's still talking about restriction as no one respected it?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the buses in Mauritius have a capacity, a sitting and standing capacity, and they have to be respected. Passengers as well as bus conductors have to respect that capacity. Now, in regard to the second part of the question about the restriction, the measures, obviously we have to think about what is happening, especially in other countries in Europe, about the rise in the number of cases, about what is happening when all the sanitary measures have been withdrawn. And we also have to see that in Mauritius, we are in the winter phase now. And during this period, you may have the number of cases. Characteristically, Mauritius, especially about the number of people having more than 60 years, number of comorbidities, we have to maintain the sanitary measures, the restrictions in place. We have to maintain it for some time more. We have also to see that our vaccination campaign started very long before, and we have already, even the population, the percentage of population having the third dose, the booster dose, we have not attained that to the being fully vaccinated. So considering all these different aspects, the sanitary measures have to be maintained.
So, as stated by Honourable Minister, if we compare figures issued daily by GIS Mauritius, we know that the decrease of the positive cases is around 0.5. Can the Minister tell us if he is really consider that this is a significant decrease if we take into consideration that more than 900,000 people have done their second dose and more than 600,000 has their booster dose?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. We have to really maintain the sanitary restrictions, and it's not a question of we have experienced what has happened during the last year during the month of October and November, and I believe we don't want to experience such situation again in Mauritius, so we have to take the precautions and maintain the restriction, the measures in place.
Sir, given the fact that all the precautions have been taken and the COVID-19 pandemic is sufficiently contained in the Republic of Mauritius, would his ministry envisage that we change the status of this outbreak to endemic in Mauritius?
Endemic now, it's obviously when the number of cases in the Mauritian population and the status of a pandemic to an epidemic, disease considered as epidemic to consider it as endemic. Yet we have to, the experts have to give us the advice. And I believe even if we change this status, do that mean that we have to change the status of vaccination, or we have to change the status of all the measures put in place, sanitary measures? So changing only the name as epidemic to endemic, but maintaining all vaccination or testing or treatment. So we have to consider all that. But what is more important is the vaccination and the precautions.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister has insisted, a fait le point sur la nécessité de garder the sanitary protocol and measures. How does the Minister reconcile his statement, which is doing regularly for the protection of the population, and the meeting which was held at the Plaine Maillan CAB. Live, we have seen on TV where his colleague ministers have not respected at all the directives issued by the high-powered committee and government. Whether the minister has discussed the matter with the Prime Minister and what action has been initiated following that meeting which was held where there was no sanitary, was against all the sanitary norms.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the context of the meeting held in a CAB office was very urgent because there it pertains to some serious issues especially for the rain, for the inundation and all. And there is exceptions being given to where you have to hold any meeting or anything that is of urgent matters.
You finished, Minister? Next question.
B470.
Sorry. Mr. Speaker, sir. For the wetlands bill, yes, I'm informed that under the UNDP Global Environment Facility funded project on the mainstreaming biodiversity in the management of the coastal zone of the Republic of Mauritius, Mr. Peter Wolf, that's written W-U-L-F, an environmental legal consultant, was recruited by the UNDP to review the first draft wetland bill, which had been worked out by the National Ramsar Committee. The contract started in November 2018 and ended on February 2020. The consultant had carried out a first mission in Mauritius in April 2019 and had several working sessions with government departments and stakeholders to undertake a gap analysis and review of the legal and institutional framework. Following the consultations, a revised and consolidated version of the draft wetland bill was submitted by the consultant on 8 January 2020. The National Parks and Conservation Service submitted its views and comments on the new version of the bill to the UNDP on the 28th January 2020. A relaunch workshop on mainstreaming biodiversity in the management of coastal zone in the Republic of Mauritius was organized by the Ministry of Blue Economy, Marine Resources, Fisheries and Shipping in collaboration with the UNDP on 8th March of this year. During the workshop, it was reported that the UNDP GEF project has been extended up to December 2022. And that another consultant will be recruited to finalize the wetland bill and work out the resource mobilization requirements for the implementation of the project. Mr. Speaker, sir, draft regulations are also being worked out concurrently with the wetland bill, and the final updated and revised version of the bill is expected to be completed by December of this year.
Merci. Est-ce que peut-être l'honorable ministre pourrait déjà nous indiquer comment le projet de loi compte préserver, compte protéger les wetlands qui se situent sur les terrains privés, comme ceux de Rochenoir par exemple, qui sont actuellement menacés par un projet de Smart City, bien que nous connaissions tous maintenant l'importance de ces zones perméables qui abritent des écosystèmes et qui sont indispensables au bon fonctionnement de la région. Comment est-ce que le projet de loi va protéger les wetlands qui sont sur les terrains privés?
We are all fully aware of the importance of our wetlands, Mr. Speaker, sir. The House will appreciate that as a country we need to protect our wetlands. This is why we are having these extensive consultations with stakeholders on the one hand, but also experts on the other. All this will be incorporated in the bill which is being finalized.
The recent torrential rains episode of the 1st of April of this year in Bellum is an example of how, because a proposed development around wetlands has not been assessed correctly, the coastal road, already flooded, will soon be exposed to considerable flooding and become unfit and unsafe for the public use, because the whole unbuilt area in Beauchamp between the public road and the sea will be built up, although it contains 2 wetlands and a series of natural drains. Can the Minister give the guarantee that the wetland bill will protect the wetlands in their ecosystems and not simply keep the 30 meters setback, which is of no use today with the impacts of climate change?
Thank the Honourable Member for the question. We will address the question holistically and looking at the wetland bill, but unfortunately I do not have the information related to the specific 2 places mentioned by the Honourable Member.
Thank you very much. Can I ask the Minister whether he will take into consideration proposal made by academic and NGO for the introduction of the environmental sensitive area and wetlands bill?
I assure the Honourable Member that extensive consultations are being held, have been held and still are being held. This is why the mandate of the consultancy has been extended until December of this year. So proposals received will be taken into consideration.
The table has been advised that PQ B498, B473, B474, B497, B485, B488, B495, B476, B518 have been withdrawn. Also, PQB 477, B493, and B514 have been withdrawn. Time over.
Motion.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10.
Seconded. The question is that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favor say aye, those against no. Aye. The ayes have it. Statement?
No. Person explanation.
Sir, with your permission, I wish to bring some clarification on the information I gave in my reply to a supplementary question to B345 from Honorable Osman Mohamed at the sitting of last Tuesday. Mr. Speaker, sir, the parliamentary question related to a project being implemented by the Road Development Authority at Pointe Sab at an initial contract value of 114.5 million. The House is aware, in accordance with the Public Procurement Act and the regulations directives issued thereunder, the tender exercise for all projects estimated to cost above 100 million, exclusive of VAT, is carried out by the Central Procurement Board. The latter, after completion of the exercise, submits to the public body concerned the name of the successful bidder for the project and for the subsequent award of the contract. It is only then that the public body issues the letter of award. Accordingly, in my reply to supplementary question, I made a general statement to the tender procedures for those contracts exceeding 100 million, which are in fact examined and evaluated by the CPB, which thereafter submit its recommendation to the Ministry for appropriate action. And this is what I meant in my reply, taking into consideration that the parliamentary question was on a project costing 114.5 million. Mr. Speaker, sir, I regret if the information given in my reply could have created any misunderstanding. I reiterate that for projects above 100 million, exclusive of that, it is the concerned public body which award the contract after tender exercise has been completed by the CPB. Thank you.
Statements by ministers. None. Public bills, second reading.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the national flag, arms of Mauritius, national anthem, and other national symbols of Mauritius Bill number 1 of 2022 be read a second time. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is with a sense of pride and patriotism that I'm presenting this bill to the House today, and I'm sure that members from both sides of the House will be driven by the same elan. Our national symbols define our national identity as they meld our history, heritage, culture, and artistry, and give our people a sense of unity and belonging nationally and worldwide. They are powerful means of instilling pride and unity amongst our population, as they can be used to communicate the knowledge, values, history, culture, and memories of our country. Their unique and intrinsic characteristics should be preserved, unaltered, and protected. That is the reason why the bill we are debating today is of utmost importance to the nation, as it will provide for better protection and use of our national symbols. Over and above the consolidation of the laws with regard to the national flag, the arms of Mauritius, and the seal of Mauritius, opportunity is being given to give legal effect to the national anthem of Mauritius and to the national flower of Mauritius, the Trochetia boutonania, and declare the Mauritius kestrel, Falco punctatus, as the national bird of Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, at present, the national flag of Mauritius is governed by the National Flag Act of 2015, while the Interpretation and General Clauses Act only gives the definition of the seal of Mauritius and the arms of Mauritius. The schedule to the Interpretation and General Clauses Act sets out the drawing of the arms of Mauritius, and on the other hand, Section 76A1 of the Criminal Code Act requires the express authorization of the Prime Minister for a person to use the arms of Mauritius, that is the coat of arms, and Section 101 of the same Act makes it an offense for any person who counterfeits the seal of Mauritius or makes use of such counterfeit seal. As such, no consolidated legislation exists to encompass all the national symbols of Mauritius. Rather, the different national symbols are scattered in different legislation, while some are not even regulated. For instance, there is no legal framework that protects the lyrics, the music, and the melody of our national anthem, which is the motherland. Mr. Speaker, sir, for consistency and uniformity, and to better protect our national symbols, the need to have one umbrella legislation was strongly felt. This is an endeavor within the broader political commitment of this government to strive for the consolidation of national unity through the strengthening of our social fabric. Indeed, by conferring legal weight to such powerful symbolic representations, this government intends to instill in the population a sense of belonging to these symbols, whilst creating in the collective consciousness an unmistakable linkage between these symbols and our identity, both on the national and international fronts. The bill aims to protect our national symbols as part of our heritage and prevent their misuse or misappropriation by others. Clause 3 of the bill provides that this act shall bind the state. Therefore, no party is exempted. Clause 11 of the bill provides severe penalty for acts of disrespect toward the national flag or other national symbols. Clauses 12 to 15 prohibit, inter alia, the altering, improper exhibition, counterfeiting, and improper use of the relevant national symbols, and prohibition from making use of the seal of Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to the national anthem, the original musical score was written in E-flat major, that is, at concert pitch, for marching military band, which has been played since 12 March 1968 to date by the Mauritius Police Band, and as written by the late composer, Mr. Philippe Gentil, former band inspector at the Mauritius Police Force. A copy of the manuscript musical score, duly signed by the composer, is kept in the archives of the Government Information Services. Therefore, until now, the official score of the motherland was only with the police band of the Mauritius Police Force, but there was no legal provision for its protection. However, the way the national anthem should be sung, that is, the melody, is also not available in any official record. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed by the Mauritius Police Band that the last official national recording of the motherland was in 1997 at the Serge Constantin Auditorium, that is the former Trafalgar Hall, with the police band orchestra and the national choir under the charge of late Mr. Landinaf, choir master at the Mauritius Police Band. While the audio part is available at the Government Information Services Department, the official written music, together with the lyrics for this recording, was not penned down. Therefore, in order to preserve these priceless wordings and lyrics set down at the times of independence, and whose precious melody and music have been sung by all Mauritians alike, the music melody together with the lyrical words as per syllables has been written down within each movable note through the anthem, showing how the motherland should be sung and played. The melody of the motherland will be as described in Part 3 of the third schedule to this bill. Accordingly, with the new provisions in this bill, no one would be allowed to alter the lyrics or the music and melody of the national anthem. It is important to have a standard official melody line with lyrics. However, it is also vital to allow for variations in pitch and arrangements, provided the official line with lyrics is respected. Understandably, variations can be carried in the pitch for various reasons. Children normally sing at a higher pitch than adults, and men sing at a lower pitch than women. Some arrangements may be for instrumental ensemble only, while other arrangements may be for small or large vocal ensemble, accompanied by one instrument or an orchestra. I therefore propose to bring, at committee stage, an amendment to Clause 12 by adding a new subclause 2 to provide that it shall not be an offense where a person plays or sings the national anthem other than it should have been strictly played or sung, so long as it is done with due respect as a salutation to the motherland. This is in line with international practice and will make it possible for our national anthem to be correctly sung by all according to their situation and musicians or singers available. Similarly, committee stage amendments are being proposed to clause 15 of the bill to provide that no authorization would be required for using the national flag or the national anthem in connection with any public activity. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to explain the main provisions of the bill. Part 2 of the bill, from clauses 4 to 9, detail the national symbols of Mauritius. Part 1 of the first schedule describes the arms of Mauritius, while Part 2 of the first schedule provides for the color and color codes of the coat of arms. Part 1 of the second schedule describes the national flag and the symbolic meaning of its colors, while Part 2 of the same schedule provides in details the color codes, type of materials, and sizes of the different types of flags. Part 3 of the bill makes provisions for the protection of our national symbols. Mr. Speaker, sir, as we are all aware, the national flag of Mauritius is always a sign of positive affirmation of loyalty and commitment, reflecting the ideals, beliefs, and values of our nation amidst our rich and diverse cultural makeup. It has been a crucial element of our national identity, and thus it should be treated with highest dignity and honor. Disfiguring it, burning it, or bringing it into disrespect are acts which we should not condone. No citizen has the right to misuse or bring to dishonor our national flag. It is with utmost pride and patriotism that we stand up whenever our national flag is flown and the motherland is sung. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Trochetia boutonniana was declared the national flower of Mauritius on the 12th of March 1992, and we are, in this bill, giving it its legal effect. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Trochetia boutonniana, an endemic plant, is often, by virtue of its leathery leaves and dark red flowers, considered an ornamental plant in Mauritius and frequently used in landscaping. Previously, the plant existed in the wild only on the summit of Le Mont Brabant World Heritage Site. The flowering time of the plant is from June to October. It is named after French botanist Louis Bouton. The Mauritian kestrel has been carefully chosen to represent our Mauritian nation, as it appropriately symbolizes the successful reintroduction of an otherwise endangered species within its natural habitat. This small falcon, which was declared the national bird of Mauritius on the occasion of the 54th anniversary of the independence of Mauritius and the 30th anniversary of the accession of Mauritius to the status of republic in March 2022, is the only bird of prey endemic to Mauritius. Mauritius kestrels can be seen in the Black River Gorges National Park and Bamboo Mountains. The Mauritius kestrel is a living success story for captive breeding in Mauritius as well as in the world. It was at the brink of extinction in the 1970s, with only 4 birds in the wild in 1974. The actual population in Mauritius in 2022 is estimated to be around 350. It is a symbol of beauty, pride, independence, strength, survivorship, and determination. This graceful bird is now a flagship for conservation of species, habitats, and ecosystems, and also for government's endeavor to protect and preserve our already fragile ecosystem. This in itself sends a powerful message of hope for our small and vulnerable nation to cope with the current global turmoils. Through this message, this government wants to urge our citizens to uphold these values during these economically difficult times so that we may together emerge therefrom stronger than ever. Mr. Speaker, sir, Clause 10 of this bill also makes provisions for any future tangible or intangible item to be so declared as a national symbol of Mauritius, subject to the resolution of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, sir, as it was the case under the National Flag Act 2015, the written authorization of the Prime Minister would be required prior to using the arms of Mauritius, the national flag, and the national anthem for any business, trade, calling, advertising, or any professional or public activity. I truly believe that this is the ideal time to put some order in our scattered legislative framework with regards to our national symbols, and at the same time to consolidate our laws accordingly. Thus, I am convinced that members from both sides of the House would agree with me on this very important piece of legislation, which will dignify our national symbols and give them their due respect and importance. Mr. Speaker, sir, with these words, I commend the bill to the House.
Mr. Speaker, I have listened to the Honourable Prime Minister with a lot of attention, and I have taken note that on many occasions he has used the word symbol. He has also used the word symbolism. And let me at the very outset say that when he has said that through this piece of legislation it will tend to strive for consolidation of national unity, let me respectfully say that it is not sufficient to only contend oneself with symbolism and symbols in order to consolidate national unity. The ill that this country has suffered from for many, many years is precisely that we are also used to governments after governments coming and concentrating efforts on symbolism, when we forget that deep down there is the rot that I say without any hesitation today has endangered the very foundation of national unity. If we are to ask the question, if all those beautiful symbols will make us believe or make the people outside believe that we are a country that is united, a country where there is national unity, then we're barking up the wrong tree. National unity is indeed very fragile today, and since the Prime Minister makes it an issue in his speech, allow me to draw the attention of the House, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the recent events in Mauritius has shown us how fragile a society we are. Fragile because any little event of this nature, anything is a good excuse for people to come onto the net and to come and make dangerous, racist, communal allegations against everyone, those most importantly against those who are suffering from the economic downturn. This is how fragile national unity is. And when we are to concentrate on the symbolism, it will take us nowhere. Let me say that I was quite interested to read this piece of legislation, and I've learned a lot while reading it. And I read clause 12 that the Honorable Prime Minister made reference to, and that clause 12 is one of the clauses that the Honorable Prime Minister said he will move for an amendment at committee stage. The initial clause 12, Mr. Speaker, sir, makes reference to, it's entitled Prohibition from Altering Arms of Mauritius, National Flag, National Anthem, and Seal of Mauritius. The initial, original clause 12 that is in this bill today, that the Prime Minister will move to amend later on, provided for what? Provided, in actual fact, that anyone who altered the way in which, for instance, the national anthem was sung would commit an offense. So basically, what the Honorable Prime Minister and his esteemed members of Cabinet had approved to send to this Assembly was a piece of legislation that would have told us, that is telling us, since it's not been amended as yet, that is telling us that should any person in Mauritius, of whatever age, have sung the national anthem in a manner that was not in concordance with what is provided for in the schedule, we would be committing an offense, and it would be punishable by 100,000 rupees to an imprisonment to a term not exceeding 2 years. I prefer taking this on a note of humor. Most probably somewhere, someplace, the drafting of this piece of legislation that tried to put to the test Mauritian citizens, even non-Mauritians, as to their ability to sing the national anthem, is quite a funny attempt on the part of this government to come with this equation to consolidate national unity. Let me put it on the account of, well, it was something that was missed at the time of being approved in Cabinet to be sent to Parliament. But now that the Honourable Prime Minister says he's going to move at committee stage for an amendment of clause 12, and what he proposes to replace by a new clause 2 under clause 12, subclause 2, is the following, and I read it. It shall not be an offence where a person plays or sings the national anthem other than as prescribed under this Act, so long as it is done with due respect as a salutation to the motherland. What does that mean exactly? It is trite law that any offence that someone is to be charged with, potentially, it should contain what we call certainty, clarity, and the degree with which anyone is to assess whether one has committed an offense or not. There should be objectivity therein. Is the way this is drafted, does this contain elements of objectivity? Imagine, therefore, that someone is charged by one of the police officers, a police officer arrests someone, come in, you have sung this song wrongly, the national anthem. Because I am of the view that it has not been done with due respect as salutation to the motherland. What does that mean? Who is to decide, Mr. Speaker, sir, what is with due respect and salutation to the motherland? Let us think for a minute. Ever since 1968, 54 years after independence in a few months, how many people have sung the national anthem in such a way as to lack respect and as salutation to the motherland? How many people have been, whom we know of, how many instances have we known of people who have sung the national anthem wrongly, with lack of respect? I don't know of any. Now, if the Prime Minister is aware of any of it, of those instances, he should, I believe, communicate it to the House. in order to at least justify the need to create a situation now where, in the event of an offense, the magistrate of a court is going to have to listen to how it was sung, and then the magistrate will have to decide whether, well, this is sung properly or not. So magistrates will have to become persons who are gifted with the ability to judge whether it's been sung with due respect as a salutation to the motherland. Le Premier ministre nous fait chanter. Tu nous fais chanter. But I prefer taking it on a sense of humor, but because it is impossible to expect one magistrate as opposed to the next magistrate to come and have the same sense of appreciation as to which one is a better singer than the other. This is totally subjective. Yes, Honorable Mohammed said it, and he is right. So, I'm trying to think, maybe the Prime Minister, through regulations, is going to try to teach us what pitch is the right pitch and what pitch is the wrong pitch. But if he's tried to pitch something to us today, he's lamentably failed in his pitching technique. Because this is not what we do in order to bring national unity. I'm serious, this is not. Because if at all there have been offenses, wrongs done by anyone in this country who sing with disrespect our national anthem, it would have created an uproar in the country, because Mauritians, all of us, we love our nation. All of us, we are patriots. All of us, we have learned from the time that we were babe in arms what are the words to our national anthem. And we stand, yes, Prime Minister, we stand in respect when we hear our national anthem. It is innate in all of us. It is in our DNA. This is what we breathe. This is what we do. This is who we are. So who are those people who sang it wrongly with disrespect that would justify coming with this legislation at a time when there are more important things to attend in the country that is going to the dogs? People are suffering and not being able to make ends meet. We're coming up about a legislation to decide who is going to have the proper pitch and the wrong pitch. And magistrates will decide who has a proper singing technique, which is respectful or not. Mr. Speaker, sir, let's look at clause 13 of this proposed legislation. Once again, prohibition from improper exhibition of arms of Mauritius and national flag. But before we go to clause 14, let me go back to clause 12 a minute. Clause 12. No person shall alter the arms of Mauritius, the national flag, or the seal of Mauritius by placing thereon any letter, emblem, or representation, or by any other manner whatsoever. Once again, what is the Prime Minister saying by coming with this clause is like, no one shall be able to use the flag, our national flag, and have, for instance, an emblem in front of the flag. And it makes me think. It makes me think. Recently, I have seen a political party that had just been created with a fist in front of the flag, the fist that represents a symbol of a fight against oppression. This is what the fist represents. Even the great Nelson Mandela also used the fist as a symbol of the fight against apartheid. And I remember the flag of South Africa with the symbolism of the fist in front there to show liberation from the chains of apartheid. So today the Prime Minister, in a very innocent-like manner, comes to tell us that this is a piece of legislation that is there to build national unity, while at the same time, he is silent on who is being targeted. I am of the humble view that in his silence speaks wonders, because it shows us that this is not innocent indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir. What is being targeted here is one political party that has been a pain in the side of this government by taking up measures that are not normal measures, not seen in the recent contemporary past, not seen in our political history in the past 30 years, manifestations, demonstrations, and then I thank the honourable member who has just confirmed that, in fact, this party is being targeted, because she said this is where we failed. So this is what bothered them. No, but she said it. She said it.
Quiet, please. Let the honourable member conclude. Only
No,
3
no,
minutes.
I'm thankful that she said it.
Conclude 3 minutes.
Is there a specific time allotment?
Yes, 15 minutes. Of the
Well, you should have said it earlier. Anyway. But this is what is being targeted. And then I'll go on clause 15. Clause 15, which was the initial clause that has not been amended, which the Honourable Prime Minister intends to amend, but the Prime Minister made no reference to it in his speech. What does it say? Clause 15 would have meant, when you read this, is that all cabinet ministers had approved this to come to Parliament. That even any citizen would have required the permission of the Honourable Prime Minister, or any Prime Minister for that matter, to even raise the flag on a car, or to walk in a street with a flag, or to use a flag during a press conference or public meeting, or to have hawkers walk on the beach by using flags to sell their goods. They would require the permission of the Honourable Prime Minister of Mauritius in order to use it. This is what this clause says. No person shall, without the written authorization of the Prime Minister, in connection with any business, trade, calling, advertising, or any professional or public activity, not necessarily trade, not necessarily calling, advertising, or professional matter, any public activity would require the permission of the Prime Minister to hold up the flag, would require the permission of the Prime Minister to put it on its car, a car flag, would require the Honourable Prime Minister's permission in order to sing that national anthem, even if it was a public activity. This is what is drafted here. Therefore, I'm happy that the Honourable Prime Minister has seen it fit to circulate proposed amendments at clause 15, where this matter is being addressed, but the question still remains as to how this could have been proposed at all. But then again, I'm sorry I'm being interrupted. I can explain to her later on.
Honourable
Yes.
Tanya Joel.
I undertake to explain it to her
Don't
later.
interrupt, the member is concluding. Has
Yeah,
only
I'm
1
concluding.
minute. Don't take his time.
Yes. I will explain to it to later on. So what I'm trying to get at here is that this, yes, I agree with the Prime Minister. I agree with the Prime Minister that it is very important to protect our national anthem. But then again, what really I'm not comfortable with, even if it existed in the 2015 legislation, is that we cannot, any Prime Minister for that matter, no Prime Minister. Why is it not the case in the United Kingdom? In the United Kingdom, you don't need the permission of any Prime Minister to use your Union Jack. You don't need the permission of the Prime Minister, for that matter, to even advertise, using it in advertising campaigns, as long as you comply with the advertising standards, which is to use it properly. Why is it in the Mauritius we have to knock at the door of the Prime Minister, whoever it is? I'm not here only pinpointing at this one Prime Minister, but any Prime Minister for that matter. Why is it that they should have the power to act as though they own the country? They are the ones who will decide who is going to be given that permission, and they are the ones to decide who will be refused that permission. So, if I understand correctly, therefore, all persons who are from 2015 onwards wanted to use this flag in any business manner, advertising, commercial, would need, for commercial reasons, would need the permission of a Prime Minister. Former Prime Minister, future Prime Ministers, and actual Prime Minister.
Thank you very
This
much.
is what I disapprove.
Thank you very much.
I thank you for saying thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me first of all commend the Honourable Prime Minister for coming before this Assembly with this bill. After the introduction of the National Flag Act 2015, it was important and legitimate that we update and consolidate this legislation with regards to our national symbols of Mauritius, as provided under the proposed bill, but also to give legal effect to our motherland and to give legislative status to our national flower and our newly declared national kestrel. Mr. Speaker, sir, our national anthem represents a symbol of patriotism. It represents peace, harmony, and unity in our multicultural society. And also with our national flag, the motherland undoubtedly stands as the most sacred representation of nationhood. If a national flag is the visual representation of the identity of the people of a country, the national anthem est l'élément sonore de cette identité nationale d'un peuple. A melody coupled with lyrics so profound that each single word defines the very essence of our loyalty towards our country. A melody that unites, a melody along which we all stand in reverence, parking by the side our religious beliefs, a melody that dwarfs all race, color, social differences. Lyrics which, dès notre enfance, have inculcated a strong sense of patriotism in our heart, and as adults, each time rekindles that flame of belonging to the nation. Mr. Speaker, sir, politics may oppose us, but once our motherland is played, at the very start of each sitting of this House, each and everyone stands in unison. Be it the national flag or the national anthem, what they remind us of is that we are all the same, born on the same soil. We can be physically different. The color of our skin might be different. We may come from different social backgrounds. We may have different religious practices. Our ancestors may have come from different continents. But whatever be the factors, whether physical, cultural, or religious, we remain one. We are one people. We are one nation. Mr. Speaker, sir, patriotism is not just setting aside our differences and standing around our national flag or standing alert when the motherland is played. Patriotism is also, if not most importantly, being conscious of our duty towards our nation. And as the Prime Minister stated this morning, we are one in our glory days as much as we are one in trying times. This is what patriotism is all about. And as the motherland goes, around thee we gather, united to face any challenge, united to swim through rough waters. And rough waters, Mr. Speaker, sir, the country has known. Be it the bagarre raciale in 1967 or les émeutes de Kaya in 1999. And during these incidents, we stood together. We stood strong. We stood for the country. Cependant, we all know how dreadful, how frightful, how deadly. We all know the social unrest and the consequences on our economy such incidents have had on the country. And no one wishes or wants the country to go through such episode again. And unless we are together, and unless we rise above all considerations, particularly above political considerations, we would never have risen above these difficult times. Mr. Speaker, sir, the last 2 years have also been difficult for the country. First COVID, then the EU listing, and now the consequences of the war in Ukraine. These are challenging times, affecting the economy, the sanitary and social livelihood of the country. Et Monsieur le Président, c'est le moment, plus que jamais, de raviver cette flamme de patriotisme. We have to, and we must actually, stand together dans l'intérêt de la nation, dans l'intérêt du peuple mauricien, autour du quadricolore, autour du motherland. And let me say it loud and clear, the time is not ripe for blame games, and certainly not ripe for party politics. The time calls for everyone, whether we sit on this side or on the other side, to behave as true patriots. And very true, Honorable Mohammed, we are all aware and conscious of how fragile our national unity is. And this is why we need to be careful. We need to act responsibly. And acting responsibly is knowing what we say and knowing what we do, et surtout d'être honnête envers la nation. Would anyone in this House deny the fact that the world is facing extreme economic situations and that Mauritius would not be spared in the economic quagmire? And how many times have honorable colleagues on the other side been vocal about the situation, about this situation that not just Mauritius but the whole world is facing? And how many times have honorable colleagues on the other side come honestly vis-à-vis la population and explain to the population in your various press conferences that there is an economic situation, not just in Mauritius but across the globe? No one. Au contraire, like Honorable Mohammed said, vous chantez la chanson de la démagogie. And that too at the very wrong pitch. This morning, Mr. Speaker, sir, the leader of the opposition comes with a PNQ seeking clarifications on urgent and immediate actions government is taking. And at some point, the leader of the opposition enumerates a long list of projects and calls the government to put to halt the implementation of these projects. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, at the same time, when I go through the list of PQs put to Honorable Ariram, when I see the list of PQs put to Honorable Hasnu, when I see the list of questions put to Honorable Ganou, Honorable Lejonga, these same questions are seeking information on the status of the respective projects in their respective constituencies awaiting completion of these same infrastructure projects. On the one hand, the leader of the opposition calls to stop with implementation of projects. On the other hand, these same members of the opposition are seeking information on when and where and how will these projects be completed. I would not refer to matters being raised during adjournment matters. You have to call ici, you have to call là-bas, you have to repair this, you have to repair that.
Hey, what is happening to you there? You don't have the right to reply across. What are you talking about? Yes, I'm talking to you. Withdraw from the chamber. Withdraw from the chamber.
Withdraw from the chamber is what I'm going to name you. You continue.
Thank you, Honorable Mohammed.
Oh, come on now. We are going too far with all these things.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
Stop all this. You continue your speech.
May I actually conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir? Patriotism is not just being vocal. Patriotism is demonstrating through words and actions that you care for the country beyond politics. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will conclude by stating that this country today needs all of us to stand together around our national flag, to stand together around our national anthem, not for our own benefits, not for the benefits of our parties, but for the benefit of our country, for the benefit of the population of this country, and for the benefit of the children of this country. I'm done, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chakouri.
Mr. Speaker, sir, at the very outset, allow me to extend my word of thanks and appreciation to our Prime Minister, Honorable Pravin Kumar Jatnat, for bringing to the House the national flag, arms of Mauritius, national anthem, and other national symbols of Mauritius Bill. Mr. Speaker, sir, with your permission, I will start by quoting Henry Ward Beecher, who stated that a thoughtful mind, when it sees a nation flag, sees not only the flag, but the nation itself. Mr. Speaker, sir, the national symbols of the Republic of Mauritius serves many purposes, notably as an affirmation of what we stand for as a sovereign country, as a testimony of our loyalty, fidelity, and commitment to our motherland, and as a window that portrays our past, present, and future to the world. And from this premise, the enactment of the national flag, arms of Mauritius, national anthem, and other national symbols of Mauritius Bill legally empowers and provides the appropriate judicial standing to our national symbols, simultaneously safeguarding them as proprietary entities of our motherland and regulating their use thereof and henceforth within the prescribed legal requisites and in such a manner to bequeath them with the appropriate esteem and respect. The enactment of this bill comes at the right time to remind all of us of the unifying force that we collectively represent as a nation. And furthermore, safeguards the sanctity and sacredness that our flag, symbols, and ensigns represents as the locus of our nationalhood. Mr. Speaker, sir, history carries with it one identity that never changes, and that's the narrative and story of a country and its people, of the battle fought and won, of the hardships endured. That started on a bleak note decades ago, but which has risen to all of the challenges strewn all along the way. Mr. Speaker, sir, to fly the national flag is a sign of patriotism, pride, and honor. It discerns that a country has full confidence in itself and is comfortable with its history, its present, and its future. This bill gives the opportunity to declare the Mauritius kestrel, Falco puntatus, an endemic bird unique to Mauritius as the national bird of Mauritius. Moreover, the national flower of Mauritius shall be the Trochecha boutoniano, also known as boucle d'oreille, because of its bell-shaped look. Mr. Speaker, sir, the national flag, arms of Mauritius, national anthem, and other national symbols of Mauritius bill provides the opportunity to pay tribute to two gentlemen, namely late Philippe Gentil and Jean-Georges Prosper. The music of Our Motherland was composed by Philippe Gentil, and the lyrics were written by Mr. Jean-Georges Prosper. Our motherland acknowledges the qualities of its people: peace, justice, and liberty. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to add that parliamentarians, as the representatives of the people and vehicles of their hope, have to ensure that its people deserve a country that aspires to peace and harmony. Our roles as parliamentarians are to take up our ranks as guardians of order. À bon entendeur, salut. Mr. Speaker, sir, on a final note, the generation to come will indeed perceive and imbibe the quintessence of our four colors, our star and key, and our different ensigns through the démarche of this enactment, such that due veneration and respect is given to all our symbols, faithfully and rigorously. Last but not least, I wish once again to congratulate a patriot, a visionary man, our Prime Minister, Honorable Pravin Kumar Jatnat, for bringing to the House such an important piece of legislation, which will definitely provide for a better protection and use of our national symbols. God bless our Prime Minister, our government, our people. Thank you very much.
François.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me start by citing the cherished, respectful patriotism note and national pride of the first line of our national anthem. Glory to thee, motherland, O motherland of mine. What a meaningful emotional connection on our national anthem, the fundamental elements which bind us all as one people, one nation, and the efforts that our country requires from us all for its future. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is the foundation of our identity, our shared values, la grandeur, l'honneur et l'espoir de notre République, around thee we gather since 1968, an everlasting history of our nation. Since then, our national flag has not changed, which is a respectable sign. Our national flag and symbols and emblems which reflect the history, values, culture, dreams, and visions of our nations are sacred and are to be accorded due respect. Our national symbols are also our God gift for our nation and the many sacrifices of yesterday, today, and tomorrow for the freedom of our Republic. Monsieur le Président, permettez-moi, dans un élan patriotique, de profiter de cette occasion pour m'exprimer à la nation mauricienne. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes dans une situation déstabilisée et déséquilibrée par la crise économique mondiale, la pandémie Covid-19, le changement climatique et la guerre en Europe. Ceci dit, l'heure est à une véritable mobilisation collective et de soutien mutuel pour éviter le pire d'un bouleversement sociétal et de construire ensemble un avenir partagé pour le meilleur pour notre République. Après tant de sacrifices visionnaires de nos ancêtres, voilà la responsabilité de tout un chacun pour bâtir collectivement l'unité, ce mot, l'unité et la fraternité de notre peuple, la nation, et c'est là de la stabilité, la vérité et à la lumière de la raison. Sans l'unité avec comme symbole notre drapeau quadricolore, pas de paix dans notre République, car l'heure n'est pas la division et l'intolérance. L'heure n'est pas l'individualisme et de l'irresponsabilité. L'heure n'est pas la défiguration du peuple et de la fragilisation de notre démocratie. Vous, le peuple, l'État, c'est vous. Et le peuple, c'est l'État. Vous êtes appelés à ne pas tomber dans les pièges de l'immédiateté, la brutalité ou du populisme qui entraîne des désordres sociétaux contraires à la dignité de notre peuple et de la nation. Notre République a besoin de la tolérance de ses citoyens, les uns envers les autres. Notre grandeur sociétale et politique se révèle quand, dans les moments difficiles, on œuvre pour les grands principes par le dialogue et en pensant au bien commun à long terme dans le grand projet de bâtir la nation mauricienne. La solution n'est pas dans la protestation violente et la violation des lois, mais la solution se trouve dans le dialogue de la vérité, comme si bien dit le Premier ministre ce matin, aussi bien que mon collègue l'honorable Tiller. C'est essentiel que le mieux-être du peuple doit être au-dessus de tout et la priorité des priorités du gouvernement. Monsieur le Président, je fais un appel au vrai sens du dialogue et du patriotisme à chacun de nous. Je compte sur tout l'engagement citoyen de notre jeunesse, ambitieuse de la République, car l'unité et la fraternité, ce sont les seuls chemins de l'avenir. Having said so, Mr. Speaker, sir, as a Rhodrigan-born citizen, I shared the historical and emotional moment of our republic when our cardinal flag was planted on the land of our territory, Chagos Archipelago, namely on Peros Banus and also on Blenheim Reef and Solomon Islands during the scientific expedition. This was a defining moment of our state symbol, of the claim of our sovereignty over Chagos Archipelago, that the International Court of Justice and the United Nations have asked Britain to give up control of the islands of Mauritius, to Mauritius. The symbolism, our quadricolor flag is a mark of a modern era revolution towards the completion of our decolonization process. Mr. Speaker, sir, Rodrigues today is proudly autonomous in our republic, and this shall be portrayed as well as the democratic mirror and inspiration for our Chagosian brothers and sisters. In the same breath, Mr. Speaker, sir, I bring with me today a desk and a handheld autonomous Rodrigues flags together with our national flag, toute ma fierté et la fierté du peuple de Rodrigues. To send a message to our republic and to the whole world that one day, be it in 10, 20, 30, or 40 years' time, our Chagosian brothers and sisters will also proudly settle back and raise our national flag together with their autonomous flag on Chagos Archipelago. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is part of my dream and inspiration for colonial-free domination, Chagos, and for our republic's future. The Attorney General and the Solicitor General recently published a special edition of our Constitution with a new world map reproduced on its front cover to commemorate the historical judicial developments of a long struggle of Mauritius for its sovereignty over the Chagos Archipelago to be recognized universally. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will allow myself to go further by asking a question: whether, as we're gaining sovereignty over Chagos and Rodrigues is today autonomous, should we not start thinking of a new design for our national flag that will symbolize these milestone achievements for these outer islands as part of our republic and to represent a true reflection and a new united and modern Republic of Mauritius? I leave it for concerned authorities, along with population view, to ponder about same, as well as to the constitutional entrenchment of our national flag and symbol, We are talking about various laws, scattered laws, but we need to think about the constitutional entrenchment of our national flag and symbols. Coming back to the purpose of the bill, Mr. Speaker, sir, the national flower, Tokisha butona nyanya, and the Mauritius kestrel, Falco punctatus, as our national bird, are great symbols of unity for us as a nation, and the symbolism of our country's destiny through perseverance, protection, and preservation. And I know, Mr. Speaker, sir, if you have taken time to admire and look at the beauty and the vitality of this flower, we need to see more of this flower planted while embellishing our environment all around the Republic. Mr. Speaker, sir, Part 3 of the bill deals with the protection of our national symbols. It provides to avoid disrespect, inappropriate use, and modification of the national emblems that do not send the wrong image of our sacred respect to our nation. In addition, I have to say, our national flag must be lit at night. One issue of concern to me, Mr. Speaker, sir, is that today there's not that much daily or weekly education on our national flag and national emblem in schools, as it used to be in the past. There's not that much conduct and display of a flag-raising ceremony in the morning in our schools and colleges, despite of COVID-19 situation nowadays. And I remember the time when a Governor General made his passage in Rodrigues as a school child. We used to line the roadways, waving flags. And nowadays, I do not expect school children to do the same for any one of our leaders, but I simply meant to say that those were periods of intense and cemented patriotism. Mr. Speaker, sir, clause 13.2 of the bill, I'm happy to see that the bill protects our minors from improper exhibition in good faith and in the course of education or social activities of our symbols and emblems. In addition to education, I believe that our Republic must also study the possibility of preparing a national pledge, as is the case for Singapore, a pledge to deepen our sense of patriotism. Mr. Speaker, sir, the coat of arms of Rodrigues that is being shown, our regional flower, Hibiscus nidiflora, our regional birds, la fauvette, le solitaire, wasi, and other products of Rodrigues, our maize, fish, and crafts must also be protected by law, which is not the case nowadays. And coming from Rodrigues as a member of a PR party, I'm very proud that today the authenticity of my beloved Rodrigues Island is being protected in our Constitution. Credit to the vision and patriotic engagement of respected historical political figures, namely late Sanogo Jagnat, Honorable Béranger, and my leader, Serge Claire. However, as we are consolidating and updating the laws with regards to the national symbols of Mauritius, I believe that it is extremely important as well to protect the regional assembly symbols. Mr. Speaker, sir, I seize this opportunity to recommend for the protection of the Rodrigues autonomous flag and all regional assembly symbols that carry our social, economic, environmental, cultural background and the pride of the Rhodesian population. Another issue also I just want to raise, Mr. Speaker, sir, I seize the opportunity. The issue of central government direction when a dignitary of Rodrigues passes away. This has to be regulated that the national flag, together with the RA flag, to be half-masted to portray a period of grief and mourning in Rodrigues. Monsieur le Président, comme je l'ai dit, déjà dit, nous avons ce débat sur la protection de notre symbole national dans un moment où nous faisons face à de nombreux défis qui requièrent notre unité nationale. Alors que nous renforçons l'unité nationale autour des symboles, notre pavillon national et régional est comme un autonomiste loyal et engagé pour l'unité nationale. Sans vouloir m'associer à quelconque connotation politique à ce débat, je dois quand même évoquer un fait divisionniste qui est en face de nous à Rodrigues. La démarche d'un référendum sur le futur statut politique de Rodrigues, comme énoncé dans le discours quinquennal du nouveau gouvernement régional de Rodrigues. Et la République doit noter sérieusement la complicité d'un parti politique national dans cette démarche. Alors que c'est dans un élan de fierté patriotique, idéologie, nationalisme, et de ce que nous pouvons faire en tant que nation une et indivisible pour bâtir et aller de l'avant, que nous réussirons l'avenir de la République ensemble. Monsieur le Président, l'histoire nous rappellera aussi Comment, en parlant du symbolisme national de notre République, à Rodrigue, nous avons fait face à l'épisode de l'année Casse-Pavillon pour l'histoire en 1969. Le Rodriguais ne voulait pas lever du drapeau quadricolore, toujours avec la complicité de partis politiques et politiciens mauriciens, prévu à 14 h le 12 mars 1969 et finalement hissé vers les 18 h. Alors qu'ils n'ont pas pu arracher les drapeaux de la main de la police, ils ont cassé le mât et le filet. Certains manifestants furent arrêtés et condamnés à la prison, selon l'historien Ben Gontran. J'aime bien ce bouquin. Hein? Mais à cette époque, l'amende d'une insulte à un symbole national était dérisoire, mais avec servitude pénale. Monsieur le Président, ce présent projet de loi prévoit, selon l'article 11.3, par rapport à une insulte au symbole national, que nul ne peut par quelque moyen ou de quelque manière que ce soit mettre en haine, ridiculiser ou déshonore un symbole national ou le symbole national de notre État. Nul ne peut sans autorisation légale brûler, mutiler ou autrement détruire ou endommager les armoiries de Maurice, le drapeau national ou le sceau de Maurice. Toute personne qui contrevient au paragraphe 1 ou 2 commet une infraction et sur déclaration de culpabilité passible d'une amende n'excédant pas 1 million de roupies et de la servitude pénale.
Try to conclude.
Sorry, sir?
Try to conclude.
Yes, I'm concluding. Let me conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir, but to say that I'm grateful for the opportunity to contribute to this national flag and other symbols of Mauritius bill. And I have to say, these are our uniting factors that bind us all as a nation towards our common future. And I say it again, what an emotion to see the beauty of our autonomy flag with our coat of arms framed by our national quadricolor, which is a testimony of the pride of the Rhododendron people, determination and destiny in harmony and solidarity within the Republic of Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, long live our Republic, and I so commend the bill to the House, and I thank you for your very kind attention.
MP Lobin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for providing me the opportunity to intervene and say a few things on this bill. At the very outset, Mr. Speaker, sir, I must say the proposed amendments to be brought at committee stage now give us a better appreciation of what the intention of this bill is all about. And de facto, this changes the interpretation to be given to this bill. Without those proposed amendments, Mr. Speaker, sir, it would have been a bill that was introducing an element of rigidity with regard to the applicability of the clauses that would have placed us in an awkward position as a democratic state, whereby you have to sing the national anthem, for example, in such a way and at such a pitch as prescribed by law, and any deviation from same will have amounted to an offense under the law. So fortunately, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honorable Prime Minister is bringing those amendments, and I welcome same, where now amendments will be brought to clauses 6, clauses 9, clauses 15, and I would lay emphasis on clause 12, whereby a new subclause 2 shall now read as follows, as mentioned by the Honorable Prime Minister: it shall not be an offense where a person plays or sings the national anthem other than as prescribed under this Act, so long as it is done with due respect as a salutation to the motherland. Mr. Speaker, sir, I've listened attentively to my learned colleague, Honorable Muhammad, with regard to the subjectivity of describing and applying the test with regard to with due respect as a salutation to the motherland. And I assume that the Honorable Prime Minister will provide us with more clarity on this issue later on. Mr. Speaker, sir, why is it necessary to symbolize and protect national symbols? The aim of symbolizing these national representations
is to have significant item recognized for its importance to the state. As clause 5 of this bill rightly puts it, the national flag shall be the symbol of the government and the people of Mauritius, Mr. Speaker, sir. The importance is twofold. Firstly, symbolizing and protecting national symbols are necessary to combat any event that is likely to undermine national unity, respect for national sovereignty. State symbols are important to national identity and sovereignty, Mr. Speaker, sir. And secondly, it helps in asserting the authority of the state by limiting the inappropriate use of these symbols and punishing any related offenses. And this is catered for in this bill. Protection of the national symbols allows for uniformity and precision, and abuse of the symbols can be better controlled by allowing a uniform application of any related offenses, such as damaging or insulting the national flag. It helps in ensuring that any national symbol is not being used in a way that could be deemed as disrespectful or offensive. These national symbols, Mr. Speaker, sir, do not only represent the general concept of one nation, but also condense the knowledge, values, history, and memories associated with one's nation. The importance of symbolism, Mr. Speaker, sir, should not be understated given our history and economical evolution. Awareness of the history of our country and its protection is crucial as a foundation for all bricks of progress that will be built onto it. In order to assess the necessity of symbolizing and protecting these national symbols, it is relevant to understand that each symbol represents for Mauritius and its importance to our history. Mr. Speaker, sir, I here pause to pay tribute to Mr. Gurudat Moer, who created our national flag, Mr. Jean-Georges Prosper for our national anthem, and Mr. Philippe Gentil, who composed our music for the national anthem. The national anthem, Mr. Speaker, sir, represents the tradition, history, and beliefs of a nation and its people. And the national anthem, Mr. Speaker, sir, contributes to the development of a sense of patriotism among the country's citizens and reminds them of their nation's glory, beauty, and rich heritage. It helps to unite people of the same country by a single song. For instance, Mr. Speaker, sir, as Mauritius set foot in a new era of independence, God Bless the Queen was replaced by Our Own Motherland, an anthem written and composed by distinguished Mauritian citizens that I have mentioned earlier. These changes, though not tangible, were the concrete proof of a newly independent Mauritius and continue to be representative of our sovereign nation. Same for our national flag, Mr. Speaker, sir. For our national flower, which is the symbol of Mauritius acceding to the status of republic. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, I shall at this stage propose that the spirit of this bill, in my humble opinion, should instead be embedded in our constitution. I think we have to go a step further, like other Commonwealth countries, like Kenya, for instance, Mr. Speaker, sir, in Article 9 of its constitution, has included as their national symbols their national flag, their national anthem, their coat of arms, and their public seal. Same is the case for India at Article 51A of its constitution. It would have been, in my humble opinion, interesting and more robust to have it in our constitution, and I'm sure we would have the required three-quarter majority in the Assembly to do so. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir, our sense of patriotism and love for our motherland should make us all here in this august assembly rise above party politics by not just making speeches and enhance and show adherence to our national symbols, but also guide us and guide the decision makers, the present government, in their decision-making process, be it political, social, or economical, to be made, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the best interest of our people. And God knows, Mr. Speaker, sir, that our people these days are awaiting eagerly, and not the very few of them, but the many of them, for patriotic and unprecedented decisions to be taken for the betterment of our nation, and for them to have a decent life and live in peace, justice, and harmony. God bless Mauritius. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. I'll suspend the sitting for 45 minutes.